New at 9:30, reaction continues to come in on the decision by Washington's NFL franchise to drop the team's Redskins name. For decades, activists have called on team owner Dan Snyder to change that name, which many considered racist and offensive to Native Americans. So joining us this morning is Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez. We thank you very much for joining us to talk about this. Now, how shocked were you when you heard they were finally ready to get rid of the Redskins name and logo?
Hey, thanks, Javier, for having us on the show. You know, we were ecstatic. I think many of the people that have been wanting this name to be changed have mentioned to me that this is a victory for all the tribes throughout the country and really indigenous people throughout the world. And, you know, and I think it's time that we put disparaging terms, words like that to rest. You know, if we were to use that type of term to name a team today, you know, it would come back with some backlash. And, you know, it's time to move on in these types of disparaging words and disparaging terms, not just for sports, but for everything else.
President Nez, you initially had a suggestion and it got some applause and some pushback. That was to include the Code Talkers or even the name of the Navajo Code Talkers. Why did you switch things up after that?
Well, I mean, it gave some opportunity for people's input. You know, the reason why Code Talkers was suggested at first was, you know, the Redskins really put their hand out to acknowledge and to give some awareness to our Navajo Code Talkers who have contributed greatly to this country. I think many of our people throughout the country recognize the contributions of the Navajo Code Talkers to winning World War II. And we also know that there are other Native American Code Talkers. But a lot of the individuals that I spoke to and those that are on social media said, you know, we don't want anything to do, no Native American name should be used for renaming the team. And, you know, I acknowledge that and recognize that. So, you know, I said that I honor that. And, you know, whatever name that the Redskins team puts in place should be in the eyes of Native Americans throughout the country, shouldn't reference Native Americans in general. So, you know, I honor that and respect that. I just felt like, you know, a name like that would recognize and honor the great contributions of Native Americans throughout this country to our freedom.
I agree. I have to ask you about the coronavirus. At one point, the Navajo Nation was one of the hardest hit areas in the entire country. How are you doing now? And I know you just received the rest of your CARES Act funding. Where does that go and how does that help you in the fight?
Well, thank you for that question, Javier. Right now, we have tested 68,238 of our Navajo people per capita. Navajo has tested 30% of its total population. So that means we are ahead of many of all the states here in the country in terms of testing their citizens, and also ahead of many countries throughout the world in testing. And I just want to also commend the Navajo people for listening and honoring leadership. You know, we as leaders heard the recommendations from the federal government, CDC, in the need to wash our hands, social distance, wearing masks, and staying at home. And Javier, as you know, we incorporated those recommendations into a lot of our health, public health emergency orders here on the Navajo Nation, and that has contributed to the reduction of COVID-19. Overall, since day one to today, 8,290 of our citizens have had the virus, and we also are tracking recovery. So 6,163 of those that contracted the virus have recovered. And, you know, our hearts go out and our prayers go out to those 401 families who've lost loved ones. And, you know, we are in the midst of this public health emergency, and it is encouraging to see the numbers decrease here on the Navajo Nation, but we also see the large spikes happening all around us, including Phoenix and Utah. And so that is the reason why we reinstated our curfew. And just to let our visitors know, we have public health orders in place and businesses are closed here on the Navajo Nation. But we're not telling our visitors not to travel through. That's allowable. But we just doing these checkpoints and roadblocks to let them know that, you know, businesses are closed. So gas up, get your food, and just make your way through the Navajo Nation. Yeah. And if you do stop, you know, we do have masks wearing as a requirement here on the Navajo Nation.
Well, we thank you very much for your leadership, and it's good to finally hear that things have turned the corner. So our continued support for all those folks up in the Navajo Nation. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Javier. God bless you. And, you know, we are going to be helping you all. I know many people from Phoenix donated to the Navajo Nation. We're going to be doing a donation drive here and sending some food and supplies down to Phoenix, too. So God bless. We're praying for you all.
Thank you. Thank you, President.